What if the very foods you bought this week, the shrimp in your freezer, the cheese on your sandwich, the sausage on your breakfast plate, were ticking time bombs waiting to sicken your family? Across America, recalls are exploding like hidden landmines, and yet most shoppers haven't even heard the warnings. Over 41,000 pounds of frozen berries tainted with hepatitis A, 32,000 pounds of pork stamped with fake USDA labels, more than 5,000 pounds of cheese crawling with listeria. These are not distant headlines. These are items already in millions of homes. And here's the terrifying question. How many families have already eaten them without realizing they've been poisoned by trust itself? When regulators delay, when corporations hide, and when our shelves stay stocked with silent killers, who is really protecting us? Or are we being abandoned to gamble our health for the sake of corporate profit? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Tonight we expose 5 food recalls that could put you at risk. Let's begin. Number 1. Walmart shrimp. Let's be honest, you never thought about the possibility of buying danger when you walk into Walmart. But as of August 24th this year, an FDA alert confirmed something almost unthinkable. Shrimp sold under Walmart's Great Value label in more than a dozen states has tested positive for cesium-137, the same radioactive isotope that poisoned Chernobyl's forests and turned parts of Fukushima into ghost towns. Imagine that, a bag of shrimp sitting in your freezer, glowing with the silent legacy of nuclear fallout, waiting to be fried up with garlic and butter as if it were just another weeknight meal. How do you protect your family when the very food you trust becomes the weapon? The cruel irony is that this shrimp was supposed to be a cheap blessing. For $7 or $8, you can stretch it into gumbo, pasta, or tacos, feeding a family on a thin budget. But behind the bargain lies a debt no one wants to pay. Cesium-137 doesn't wash away like dirt on a potato. It sneaks into your body, pretends to be potassium, and lodges itself in bones and organs where it can quietly burn you from the inside for as long as 30 years. Do you really think Walmart put a label on the freezer saying, "Buy one, get one cancer"? The shelves stay stocked, the cash registers keep ringing, and shoppers like us are left holding radioactive leftovers. And let's not kid ourselves. This isn't Walmart's first betrayal. Over the past few years, the chain has been caught selling expired meats, phony organic produce, and even canned goods laced with hormone-disrupting chemicals. Consumer advocates have shouted, lawsuits have piled up, but the machine rolls on, greased by profit and protected by loopholes. So should we really be surprised that they're shrugging off an FDA recommendation instead of pulling dangerous shrimp? To Walmart, it seems cheaper to gamble with our health than to admit fault. And who pays the bill? Not the executives in Bentonville. It's the seniors heating shrimp scampi in a trailer home, the retired couple stretching Social Security with freezer food, the single mom tossing shrimp into ramen to give her kids something that feels like seafood night. Think about it. If radiation was detected at 4 American ports, how many shipments slipped through unseen? How many bags are already sitting in pantries, thawing in sinks, sizzling in pans right this moment? What happens when those contaminated shrimp end up in nursing homes, where weakened bodies can't fight off even a mild illness, let alone radioactive exposure? Isn't it terrifying that we don't even know the full scope, and yet we're told to wait for a formal recall while Walmart keeps ringing up sales? How much more proof do we need that the system is rigged to protect profit over people? And what does the future look like if this continues? If today it's radioactive shrimp, tomorrow could it be contaminated beef, pesticide-soaked apples, or lead-laced canned goods? At what point does America wake up and realize the grocery aisle has turned into a minefield? When will we stop comforting ourselves with that dangerous thought, just this once won't hurt? While corporations bet that our silence is worth more than our lives, the painful part is that we do have choices, but they aren't always easy ones. Safer seafood can be found from suppliers like Wildfish Direct or Ocean's Halo, companies that publish third-party safety tests. Even budget chains like Aldi have certified sustainable options that undergo tighter audits. The question is, will we demand accountability and push stores like Walmart to clean up their act? Or will we keep buying shrimp spiced with radiation because it's all our wallets can reach? So should Walmart face criminal charges for putting radioactive shrimp on shelves without warning us? What if the meal you served last night was laced with cesium-137 and no one told you? Comment your thoughts, because this isn't just about shrimp. This is about trust, and it's rotting faster than food left out in the Arkansas sun. Number 2. Brie cheese. Cheese has always carried an air of comfort and sophistication, something you bring out for special company or treat yourself with on a quiet night. But on August 24th, federal officials confirmed that a so-called luxury brie, imported and sold in New York, is carrying something far darker than creamy richness: Listeria monocytogenes, one of the deadliest pathogens in the food chain. What makes this so gut-wrenching is that shoppers paying a premium for this cheese thought they were choosing something purer, safer than plastic-wrapped slices. Instead, they were handed a bacterial Trojan horse that doesn't strike fast and loud, but lurks silently, waiting weeks before it tears lives apart. The recalled product, Brie Royal Falcon, landed in Brooklyn cheese shops between July 24th and August 13th, neatly boxed in wood, flaunting the imagery of French elegance. Only 12 cases were formally recalled, but anyone who knows soft cheese knows the math doesn't stop there. Brie is like gossip at a family reunion. One contaminated piece touches another, and suddenly the whole table's infected. A single wheel can cross-contaminate dozens of others, especially when knives, boards, and displays are shared. Unlike salmonella that hits within hours, Listeria is a ghost. It can hide inside your body for up to 70 days before unleashing fevers, miscarriages, or meningitis. Ask yourself, if you got sick 2 months from now, would you even remember that wedge of brie at your neighbor's dinner party? For older Americans or for pregnant women, this isn't a stomachache. This is Russian roulette with cheese. According to CDC data, about 94% of people infected with Listeria end up hospitalized, and nearly 1 in 5 die. That's a kill rate higher than most cancers. Every year, around 1,600 Americans fall victim, and roughly 260 never make it home. Behind those numbers are stories like the Michigan grandmother in 2023 who died from Listeria meningitis after eating imported camembert, cheese from the same European supplier network now under scrutiny. If one woman can lose her life to a wedge of cheese, how many others are on the brink today? The scandal grows darker when you realize the US didn't even catch it. The recall only happened because a foreign health authority raised the alarm. In other words, our inspectors were asleep at the wheel, while overseas regulators saved American lives. Shouldn't that make us wonder how many other infected imports are sneaking through customs, while the FDA stretches its thin budget across millions of products? If boutique brands get a free pass simply because they look small batch and elegant, who's really guarding the gates? And here's the cruel irony. People buy these imported, artisanal cheeses thinking they're avoiding the chemicals of factory food. Yet the very rustic, wood-aged, hand-wrapped qualities that make brie seem wholesome are the same features that help bacteria thrive. These aren't stainless steel assembly lines. They're microbial playgrounds sold at $12.99 a wedge. In chasing health and class, are shoppers actually buying their own hospital tickets? The future doesn't look reassuring. Demand for niche imports is surging, FDA labs are aging, and pathogens don't need passports. Are we staring at a wave of boutique foodborne outbreaks? Will foreign governments always have to be the first to warn us while Americans snack on hazards with crackers and wine? And what about the cheese shops themselves? Small businesses whose reputations could crumble overnight? Do they even have the resources to trace every wheel they slice? Safer paths do exist, but they require breaking habits. Choosing domestic pasteurized brands like Vermont Creamery, Point Reyes, or Humboldt Fog means eating cheese backed by traceable test results. For those open to alternatives, plant-based brie from Miyoko's Creamery cuts dairy bacteria out of the equation entirely, while still giving that creamy spread. These aren't luxuries. They're shields against ending up in the ER with meningitis. Would you still buy imported brie knowing no American lab ever tested it? Should FDA overhaul its inspection system before another quiet outbreak strikes? And are small cheese counters turning into silent danger zones for the very people who trust them most, older Americans and pregnant women? Share your thoughts, because what you can't see in soft cheese may be what takes you down. Number 3. Fake USDA meat. What if the symbol you've trusted your whole life, the USDA inspection mark, turned out to be nothing more than a cheap sticker? On August 22, 2025, the USDA announced a recall so alarming it shakes the very foundation of America's food system. 32,000 pounds of pork products were sold under the brand Sabrositos Hondureños, LLC, carrying a USDA inspection label that never existed. Let that sink in. not spoiled meat, not mislabeled allergens. This was fraud at the federal level, a fake EST 1785 slapped on meat that never saw an inspector's eyes. Families across multiple states have already eaten it, believing they were protected by the full weight of federal safety standards. Instead, they were duped by ink and packaging. Think about what that means. Those vacuum-sealed bags of ribs, chuleta ahumada, and spicy chorizo weren't just food, they were counterfeits of trust. For immigrant households, for low-income families stretching every dollar, these products are cultural staples, a taste of home at a price they can afford. But the packaging was dressed up with a fake stamp of approval, as if draping a wolf in red, white, and blue fleece. If even the USDA symbol can be forged so easily, what chance does the average shopper have of spotting danger? And here's the heart-stopping part. This meat wasn't pulled because anyone found mold or slime. It was pulled because no one ever inspected it at all. No swabs, no microbial checks, no sanitation logs, no verification of refrigeration temperatures. Buying this pork was like boarding a passenger jet that never passed a safety check. Would you knowingly put your kids on that flight? Then why should we be expected to eat food with the same risk? The human toll is not theoretical. Just 1 pound of pork tainted with E. coli, 0157:H7, could hospitalize a child or kill an elderly adult. The CDC reports over 265,000 E. coli infections each year in America, with children and seniors the most vulnerable. Now add to that the fact that many of these recalled products, like chorizo or smoked ribs, are foods often grilled quickly, sometimes left pink in the middle. That shortcut at the stove or grill could be all it takes for a family meal to turn into a hospital bill. And yet Sabrositos isn't the first. In Texas back in 2021, another small distributor recycled old USDA labels from a defunct partner, passing uninspected beef into local restaurants. That scandal led to a $1.2 million fine, yet within months the company rebranded and was back in business. How many more are out there right now betting that regulators won't notice until it's too late? Are we witnessing an isolated fraud or just the tip of a much larger iceberg? The questions keep piling up. Will inspectors be forced to comb through every ethnic meat brand now, punishing honest small businesses alongside the guilty? Or will fake stamps keep slipping into corner stores, delis, and farmers markets, where trust runs high and oversight runs low? And if the USDA can't guard its own label, who is left standing between shoppers and disaster? The bitter irony is that those forced to hunt for budget meats, retirees on fixed incomes, working-class families fighting inflation, are the ones at greatest risk. When discount chains and cultural grocers stock meats wearing forged federal badges, the consumer becomes the last line of defense in a system already broken. Imagine being told that your only shield against salmonella or listeria is your own ability to spot a counterfeit number on a plastic seal. That's not protection, that's abandonment. So what can you do? At the very least, check every USDA plant number on packages against the meat, poultry, and egg product inspection directory online. Brands like Applegate Farms, Welsher Meats, or Heritage Foods USA remain transparent and federally traceable. And if your local Latinx or Asian grocer can't confirm which cuts were cleared by USDA, the safest move is to walk away, even if it means giving up a taste of home for peace of mind. But here's the question gnawing at the core. If fake inspection stamps can make it this far, what else on our shelves is fake? How many more official logos hide behind them nothing but corporate shortcuts and federal neglect? And how many of us will only learn the truth under fluorescent hospital lights, long after dinner is done? Tell us. Would you trust the USDA seal after this scandal? Or has it become just another logo in a grocery aisle full of lies? Number 4. Middlefield Original Cheese Co-op. A name like Middlefield Original Cheese Co-op sounds like something straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. Cows grazing on rolling hills. Small-town honesty wrapped in wax paper. The kind of product you'd trust to serve your grandchildren. But on August 24th, 2025, that wholesome image cracked. Wide open, more than 5,400 pounds of cheese from this Ohio-based distributor have been recalled due to Listeria monocytogenes contamination. This isn't a side note buried in the classifieds. This is a live public health threat sitting in Ohio grocery stores, delis, and refrigerators, and most people in those towns still have no idea. The contaminated products weren't just small wedges. This recall covers 8-ounce packs for household shoppers, 5-pound loaves for food service, and enormous 40-pound commercial blocks meant for slicing in bulk. Flavors like Pepper Jack, Monterey Jack, horseradish cheese, and farmer's cheese were sold under comforting banners such as Copia Collective and Middlefield Original, proudly marketed as 100% grass-fed and artisan-made. And that's the cruel punch. These brands specifically lure health-conscious families and retired shoppers trying to steer clear of processed junk. Yet the very label meant to reassure them has now become a warning flag. Listeria doesn't just upset stomachs. It hospitalizes 1,500 Americans annually and claims roughly 260 lives, many of them seniors already fighting fragile immune systems. Even more disturbing is how this came to light. It wasn't the FDA waving the red flag. It was the company itself during routine internal testing. On the surface, that seems responsible. But the darker truth is that by the time those results came in, contaminated wheels had already been shipped across Ohio between July 14th and August 7th, which means sandwiches in school cafeterias, cheese cubes at church potlucks, and casseroles in retirement homes may already have been carrying invisible danger. Listeria is a patient assassin. It thrives in coolers, multiplies in silence, and waits up to 70 days before showing itself. How many people will brush off a fever in October, never realizing it was seeded by a block of artisan cheese in July? History tells us this is no minor scare. In 2011, contaminated cantaloupe killed 33 Americans. In 2020, queso fresco sent 13 people to hospitals across 4 states. The numbers are not abstract, they are gravestones and medical bills. So what does this mean for Ohio today? How many vulnerable grandparents are unknowingly sitting in that incubation window? How many pregnancies are already at risk because a slice of local cheese felt safer than a factory block? And the emotional toll is brutal. People turned to co-op cheese because they believed in a better choice, supporting local farmers, paying extra for grass-fed purity. But what happens when the farm image betrays the very values it sold? Suddenly the farmer's market feels no safer than a faceless factory, and shoppers are left questioning not just one brand, but the entire concept of local trust. Should consumers fear every small producer now? Or will regulations tighten so hard that honest co-ops can't survive? If small dairies see how a single recall can tank their reputation, what's to stop some from hiding positive test results in the future? So here's what you need to do if you're in Ohio or know someone there. Check your fridge, and if you see Pepper Jack, Monterey Jack, Farmer's Cheese, or horseradish cheese from Middlefield or Copia Collective, get rid of it immediately. Don't wait for symptoms. Don't gamble that it looks fine. For safer dairy, national brands like Tillamook, Maple Hill Creamery, or Redwood Hill Farm have stricter modern testing protocols and transparent sourcing. And if you still crave creamy richness without bacterial roulette, plant-based brands like ViaLife or Kite Hill carry no listeria risk at all. But here's the haunting thought. Is listeria becoming the hidden epidemic of so-called clean label foods? When even grass-fed co-ops, symbols of purity, can deliver deadly pathogens, what hope is left for families trying to eat right on a budget? Will tomorrow's recalls target the very farmers markets people believed were their safe havens? The milk may have been local, but the betrayal ripples nationwide. And once that trust is broken, no wax seal can patch it back together. Number 5. Sausages. Saturday mornings should smell like sizzling sausage, not like a court case waiting to explode. Yet on August 22, 2025, the USDA confirmed a recall that tears away the comfort of the breakfast table. More than 21,300 pounds of pork sausages distributed in Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma had never been federally inspected. That's not a paperwork hiccup. That's a system meltdown. What ended up in school cafeterias, truck stop diners, and nursing home trays wasn't just cheap filler. It was unverified meat, dressed up to look legitimate. The distributor, a regional plant now hiding behind bankruptcy filings, had been running with lapsed inspection credentials for over 9 months. During that time, it pushed sausage links, patties, and breakfast bombs into supply chains that feed society's most vulnerable: children, seniors, prisoners, and low-income families. Boxes carried reused inspection labels from a shuttered facility, turning deception into business practice. This wasn't just unsafe food, this was food laundering, and in that fraud lay darker dangers. USDA lab tests flagged some batches for metal shavings from worn-down grinders, plus sodium nitrite levels so high they would have been illegal in Europe for over 10 years. One lot showed TVBN levels, chemical markers of rot, so elevated that Canadian standards would have branded it decomposing waste, not dinner. Imagine the betrayal. Parents sending their kids to school for a subsidized sausage biscuit, thinking it's at least safe fuel for the morning. Elderly residents in Dallas nursing homes fed sausage. Gravy spoon by spoon, never told that the meat hadn't passed a single federal eye, and the nightmare is already real. 5 seniors were hospitalized in early August with severe gastrointestinal infections tied directly to unverified pork protein. 2 remain in critical condition. Their families didn't pay for artisan charcuterie. They trusted the state to feed them something inspected, something legal. Instead, bureaucracy gambled with their lives. What makes this case even bleaker than the New Jersey fake stamp pork scandal is the timing. The Texas processor declared bankruptcy 2 days before the USDA announcement, shielding itself from liability and scattering a paper trail regulators will struggle to piece together. A cruel irony, the very act of poisoning the public may now protect the company from accountability. And here lies the broader terror. If one plant can masquerade for 9 months, how many others are quietly slipping under the radar while inspectors chase paperwork instead of pathogens? So what happens next? Will states ramp up surprise audits on regional processors, or will small plants keep gaming the system while bigger headlines distract us? Will honest family-owned butchers be smothered by new regulations written in response to fraudsters? Or will consumers be left to police their own breakfast, squinting at plant codes and praying the sausage in the skillet isn't counterfeit? These questions bite harder than the food itself. Because when meat meant for prisoners, pensioners, and public schools turns out to be trash-tier protein, wrapped in counterfeit stickers, who's truly serving the sentence? For those still shopping in the affected states, the only real defense is vigilance. Avoid bulk unlabeled sausages sold at discount retailers or generic food service packs. Stick to brands like Pedersen's Natural Farms, Garrett Valley Farms, or Teton Waters Ranch, which commit to nitrate-free standards and publish traceability data. Better yet, buy from local butcheries where you can see the grinder, ask questions, and know that the sausage in your hand came from meat that was at least looked at by a human inspector. Because the lesson here is as bitter as it gets. In today's marketplace, transparency is safety. But one chilling dilemma remains. If America can't guarantee the inspection of something as simple as a breakfast sausage, what confidence should we have in anything else lining our shelves? Are we staring at just a Texas mess? Or a national inspection collapse waiting to surface one recall at a time? Number 6. Frozen fruit. That morning smoothie you thought was protecting your heart may have been stabbing you in the back. Federal health officials have confirmed that over 41,000 pounds of frozen strawberries and berry mixes sold under trusted grocery labels have tested positive for hepatitis A, a virus that attacks the liver and can lurk silently for weeks before showing its teeth. These aren't niche imports hiding in dusty shops. They're bags stamped with names like Great Value, Good and Gather, and Everyday Essentials. Brands woven into the lives of retirees on fixed incomes, families using SNAP, and low-income shoppers across the South and Midwest. In other words, the very people trying to stretch their dollars with healthy choices are now swallowing poison disguised as fruit. At least 26 infections have already been traced to clusters in Florida, Georgia, and Indiana, each one a flashing red light ignored until too late. And here's the cruel trick. Hepatitis A can incubate quietly for 15 to 50 days. That means thousands of Americans may already be carrying a viral time bomb without a single symptom. Seniors and those with weak livers face the gravest danger: acute liver failure, hospital stays, even death. We've seen it before. In Canada, a berry-linked outbreak killed 2 people in 2022. Are we watching history rhyme itself on American soil? The deception is galling. Bags were marketed as washed and ready to eat, a phrase that feels like a hug of reassurance in the freezer aisle. But in reality, most cold packing plants never apply true viral kill steps. No heat, no high-pressure sterilization. Just rinse, bag, and freeze. Hepatitis A doesn't die in ice. It sleeps there. So every cheerful smoothie bowl, every berry-topped yogurt was a round of viral roulette masquerading as breakfast. Imagine spooning that into a child's lunchbox or handing it to your grandkids thinking it's the safest snack and realizing it was as dangerous as raw sewage on a spoon. Accountability, it's missing in action. Internal FDA memos now reveal that red flags popped up back in June when one shipment tested positive at a border checkpoint. Officials claim that batch was diverted. Diverted where? The paper trail stops cold, but the frozen fruit kept coming. Tens of thousands of pounds from the same supplier, shipped from Mexico and Turkey, slipped into freezers nationwide. Regulators sat on their hands while the virus sat in our kitchens. How many times do we have to watch profit silence protection before we admit the system is failing? So what happens next? Will Washington finally demand that imported frozen fruit undergo viral inactivation? Or will they shrug, issue vague alerts, and wait for lawsuits after the sick pile up? Should seniors and schoolchildren really serve as test subjects for food companies that can't be bothered to pay for safe processing? And how many healthy choices will Americans abandon when they learn that even berries, symbol of clean eating, are contaminated by a globalized system that values volume over vigilance? Here's the brutal reality. If your freezer holds mixed berries from those 3 labels, stamped with product of Mexico or packed in Turkey, toss them out. Don't wait for a recall notice to arrive months late. If you need safer fruit, look toward brands like Wyman's, Cascadian Farm, or Driscoll's, which rely on domestic crops and tighter U.S. sanitation protocols. Or go old school. Buy fresh domestic berries in season, freeze them yourself, and know exactly where they came from. Yes, it may cost more upfront, but it's still cheaper than a hospital bill for viral hepatitis. And yet the contradiction lingers like a sour taste. In a nation constantly told to eat more fruit, how do we follow that advice when even the healthiest choices are laced with disease? What kind of message does it send when foreign berries enter our food supply unchecked, while regulators issue nothing stronger than a muted alert? If our safety is optional, is health itself becoming a privilege only for those who can afford premium labels? Tell us your thoughts, because sometimes the food we cling to for health is the very dagger pointed at our backs, and the sharpest cuts come not from hunger, but from betrayal. When food safety collapses, silence kills. Subscribe now to join us exposing hidden dangers. Corporations never want you to know.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of the newest and best videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.